And there's no way in the world we can, no one image is going to capture the vitality of a community that was absolutely thriving. I remember one of my friends, I don't know if you've heard of him, Ron Wallace. He pulled together a remarkable documentary and showed it all. I mean, he traveled all over the country with it. And I got a better understanding of the vitality of that community and what was happening, particularly the whole Greenwood and Archer, section there, the whole district. And then of course to read John Hope Franklin, and to read a number of those individuals, the Scott Ellsworth, those people who have spent a lot of time and energy delving into understanding what happened, with this riot, what went down at that time. So here you have the kind of dichotomy in terms of before and after. The Williams Dreamland Theater. Any of y'all ever attend this place? Huh? Anybody ever go there?
Yes.
Oh, we got a few people that went there. At that time? Back in 19... You can fill in the place for me, okay? Obviously, each community, each African American community over the years had a theater where they could present some of the major performers of the day. When you start talking about the Chitlin Circuit, when you talk about these people who were out there on the trail performing, and particularly in the major cities in this country, all of them had a theater like Dreamland. In Detroit, we had the Paradise Theater. Not too far from Black Bottom. The Howard Theater in Washington, D.C. The Regal Theater in Chicago. We can go on and on talking about each one of these urban centers that had like a major performance center. And I have to think, and I may be wrong about that, in terms of how Dreamland, was that particular palace, where some of the major performers could come through and present their wares. I can't wait to read Jennifer's book, on Dreamland, to see exactly how she puts that into her story. A lot more could be said about the Williams family, John and Luella. And of course, this is the destruction, this is the after, again, one of those before and after scenes. And what happens with the Dreamland Theater after the 21 riot. And you're going to see this here kind of replica, this destruction, again and again, when you look across to some 35 blocks of devastation.
60.
So when you start talking about the numbers and the amount of property lost and everything, I mean, I've been researching this stuff for years now, and probably most intensively over the last month or so, and just trying to get your arms around what are the actual figures, the number of homes and property that was destroyed, the number of lives that was lost. And it's almost like, I'm a student of history and anthropology, and you put 10 anthropologists or 10 historians in the room, and you got 10 different impressions of what happened. And so what you have to do is struggle for a consensus and say, well, maybe 3 of them agree on this, but then 7 agree otherwise. So you may end up siding with those 7 in terms of what actually occurred. Not to say that that's going to be anywhere near the truth. So it's a little bit more digging that's necessary to find out exactly the nature of the devastation and just how widespread and the impact that it had on the community. And this is a page that's taken from the commission that was put together under Governor Keating. And 11 members were put on this commission. I think it started back in 1997, 1998. But it took many a year for them to pull together all of the information about what actually occurred at that time. And this is just a page from, you can see the page 85, where you get some semblance of what was happening to the African American community at that time. And these are being rounded up, their hands are up, and being confined in what I would call these concentration camps. That was very reminiscent, looking at these two photos reminded me of what happened in Detroit in 1967. And out on Belle Isle, where basically and mainly it was the African American community that was arrested and then confined, to these kind of makeshift concentration camps. So here are all these black Oklahomans who are being rounded up. And many people have kind of explained, they look at some of the captions in there and say, oh, they were being concentrated for their own protection. And of course, the Red Cross is going to come in almost immediately after all of this occurs. Remember, we're only talking about 16 hours of actual turmoil. It's not like the 5 days we had, in Detroit in 1967. So it's even a longer time for the devastation to occur. But within 16 hours, it was traumatic enough, to affect hundreds of lives at that time. And here are some of those lives being marched off for their own protection. How many of you know John Hope Franklin?